Hey guys! Hey! I hope everybody's well. This is winter in Edmonton, Alberta, and I come down here to a nice spot where somebody put a picnic table there. And I'm on a trail here, but see what's behind me is a river. And I don't know if you've seen my last video, but there's actually a lot more water flowing at that time than there's right now. Quite amazing. What we're looking at is the LRT bridge, and behind it is the 110 or 112-year-old high-level bridge. I brought my bike down here, but the last little stretch here of the trail I was actually pushing it. And this is Edmonton, Alberta, and well, we have a lot of trails that are cleared in the river valley where you can take your bicycle and you can ride it. Now, what I like to talk about in this video, being that it's winter time, it is still December, but we passed Christmas, New Year's is coming up, so 2025 is just ahead of us, guys. Things are unpredictable right now, but what it got me thinking about what seem to be the biggest risks for us as individuals and perhaps for the world as a whole for 2025. And I actually did some Googling about it this morning, and well, for individuals, the biggest risks are, number one, heart disease, leading cause of death. Number two, cancer. Number three is complications from drug consumption, overdoses, I'm guessing. And number four, accidents. For yourself individually, there are a lot of things you cannot control, but you can control the risk factors for each one of them. For example, heart disease. Well, for some people it runs in the family. You may end up with heart disease. Might be genetic. But there are a whole bunch of risk factors that you can control. You take your bicycle for your commutes or your trips around town, for example. It'll get your heart rate going, get enough exercise. Cycling is an excellent way that you don't have to make extra time for if you use your bicycle for transportation. So then you already got that covered. Another big risk factor is a poor diet. You can also control that one. If you have a decent diet, you also lower your risk of cancer at the same time. So you already got two of the biggest risks for individuals that you got covered that way. Now, for complications from drug use, yeah, we have a big opioid crisis. Once somebody is addicted to a substance, it's very, very hard to get off there. So, in my opinion, best to stay away from it. Yeah, another thing is accidents. Accidents can happen just about anywhere. Like I'm riding the bike in the wintertime, could wipe out somewhere. The key to avoiding that, you might say, oh, why don't you wear a helmet? That's the thing that usually is like the default answer to this. The helmet is not the thing that's going to prevent you from having an accident. When you're riding your bicycle in the road and you're sharing a road with the cars, your main risk factor is to get a collision with another vehicle. And while it can definitely impact your head, your limbs are more at risk than that. On a trail, again, I can mitigate the risk factors just by being aware of what the surface is like, perhaps slowing down and even pushing the bike where I think it's not safe or where there's a group of people or there's other cyclists around me. I can ride or act in a way that will minimize my risk. Now, these are just the risks that we face as individuals. They're basically the leading causes of death. That's not going to change in 2025. But like for North American society and perhaps the world as a whole, climate change is still one of the main concerns that are facing us, the main risks for humans. Well, all the climate goals, the conferences and the United Nations and commitments of cutting emissions and stuff, up to this point, they're pretty much all failed. So emissions haven't been reduced. They're still on the increase. And it's kind of tied to the way we organize our economies, the way that we distribute goods, and the way that we consume things. We have a society where consumption is at the basis of how everything works. It's called capitalism. I don't want to get too much into politics, but it is basically fueling climate change at an exponential rate. And it's a trap, guys. So I think that's one of the threats that our leaders have to get more serious about in the coming years. Yeah, even those leaders that are claiming to prioritize climate change are still all failing on accomplishing anything meaningful. Number 2 risk for the world is geopolitical tensions. It's got a lot to do with corruption. So here in North America, like we're talking about border security now, this come to the surface now after Donald Trump's been elected president, and he's claiming that border security is one of his biggest agendas. And, well, I gotta be perfectly honest with you, I don't believe in borders at all. So I don't think that the biggest threats to our society, whether it's in Canada, the United States, and Mexico, all of North America, and even Europe and stuff, is coming across borders. We already have all the elements for causing problems within society right here in our own countries. One big one that we have right now is that in recent years, with high inflation and stagnant wages and stuff, there's a serious cost of living crisis, and I think it is actually worldwide, and it's causing certain populist leaders to rise to power because simply all they have to say is that they're going to make things better again. And unfortunately, and that's another big risk to our society, is the ease at which they can manipulate people by simply investing in certain media. First of all, they can buy traditional media, sponsor media. If you got money, you can get your word out. It's as simple as that. It's always been like that. But now they can be even more convincing because there are ways of projecting an alternate reality that doesn't really exist. Our leaders today are using means that are dishonest to convince us, and this actually goes regardless of what your agenda is. No matter what side they're on, there's manipulation happening. There's a lot of dishonesty, and there's a lot of corruption. And I think corruption is one of the major threats to our world the way we know it. The general population is losing ground. It is harder to come by the basic essentials of life because they're being used for profit. See, I am not against capitalism, but I'm definitely not in support of corporations making huge profits because of basic necessities of life, like medical treatment, like basic groceries, like shelter. All these essentials of life should perhaps not be for profit. But then again, if I say that out loud anywhere, like people are accusing me of being a communist. Well, do we have only those two extremes? Is there no in-between anymore? You can't advocate for something that benefits most of society just because it perhaps takes some profit away from some large corporations or the wealthy. The biggest threat to society in 2025, I think, is just the way we've been already conditioned to believe that we always have to aspire for more growth, even if it means perhaps damaging the environment because, it's our livelihoods. We have to earn money in a way that always calls for more and more and more. If there's no growth in our economy, then we're in trouble. But if there's too much growth in our economy the way we've been accustomed to it, well, then it means more climate change, more problems. It means more corruption, more wealth concentrated with fewer people who are then pushing their agenda on everybody else. And again, it generates conflicts. We need border security for what? Because people from other countries where they have more poverty than here, for example, are dangerous to us. Why shouldn't they have free passage wherever? Because there are more criminals coming from other countries than there are already in any given country. Like, look at the United States. Look at the mass shootings. Well, I don't have any statistics on it, guys, but I would say that most of the time when there's a mass shooting committed or something like that, it's actually U.S. citizens themselves. Guns are widely available. If you ask me, and you're probably going to say, oh, good thing you're not going to be running for prime minister or something like that, but it's have open borders. Give people free passage. And if you have criminals coming in from another country, well, we have police forces for that. But perhaps if there was more equal opportunities for everybody, then there wouldn't be quite as much crime. I think crime is a result of inequality. So this is my big talk here. I said as a New Year's resolution in my other video to stay out of politics. But, you know, realistically, you can't. It's totally unnecessary to have a cost of living crisis. It's a matter of how things are managed, and we have leaders that are failing in that regard, that are basically in office tackling the things that are easy to take care of, but they're shying away from the problems that are bringing us down and that over time gonna cause a collapse to much of our society. Does it have to come to that? Guys, I think it does not. And I hope that in 2025, some things are going to change for the better. There's always hope for that, but it takes a little bit of effort from everybody. And I know that it's not easy to pinpoint what you can do as an individual, but that's something that you have to find out for yourself. And sometimes you have to get involved on a local level in whatever, and the collective result is going to be a better world. Getting cold feet here, guys. Thank you for listening to my little talk. I'm the first one to admit that I don't have all the answers, but maybe I inspire you to find your own answers. I appreciate all of you who are watching this and perhaps are subscribed to my channel. If you haven't, well, welcome. Just a button. Doesn't cost you anything. And I'll see you very soon in another video.